Hey DeoGenZ, what is this be? It's Gaming Gauntlet podcast, you see. From current gen to even retro, I share with you all the info I know. We pull samurai blades, don't forget to save. This gauntlet can flaunt it so even trolls are phased. Come push start, get ready to play. Gaming Gauntlet is here today.
Hello and welcome to Gaming Gauntlet Podcast. We're in nature! See trees and birds and bees are somewhere, I'm sure. They're probably getting the last remaining bits of honey and nectar before the winter comes. But it does not feel very winterish right now. It feels at least 80 degrees. And the humidity almost feels like it's 90. And it's October. It's just the beginning of October, but it's still October. And Jersey is slowly turning into a rainforest, which is precisely why I'm walking around with this in the woods. But on top of that, today we're going to be discussing adventure games. You know, if I fall, it's your fault, guys. See that? There's a lot of roots in the ground, and me looking at myself on the iPad is... Hacha! I feel like I'm going to trip. So we're going to be talking about adventure games today. Games I've been playing this week. Not so many. Few and far between, unfortunately. See, the thing is, I'm actually at college right now, believe it or not. Yeah, wow, DeoGenZ, he's such an environmentalist. He goes to school in the jungle. No, it's that way somewhere. And there's a trail that leads into a park that's right by my school. So that's where I am right now. And class just got canceled, so that was really cool, because usually I have to wait until that's over and I've taken in all that lesson that I can learn, and then in between lab, because I have it in the same day, just a couple hours later, that's usually when I record these podcasts. But it's like, what time is it? I think it's 8:40ish right now, so this is like really early stuff for me, and I am so happy that we can be out and see what this park has to show. I've been going in and out of this park for, I guess, 2.5 semesters. And it's so cool to see this place constantly changing. I was hoping that maybe we'd have some more differential in the tree coloring, but not so much. It doesn't seem that way. I'm looking around, and you guys can look too. It seems as though it's mostly still green, which, that's fine, you know. That's all good. It's amazing what trees do. It's incredible. I'm actually a little tiny bit bummed that the lecture was canceled this morning, because we were talking about viroids and prions, which I know you don't know those terms, but prions are protein parts, little fragments of, proteins, and viroids are virus fragments. They're not a full-blown virus that has a whole genetic material, whether it's an RNA or DNA strand inside itself, but it's just a part. So it's like a little segment of genetic code that's just out there floating around, because we have billions of viruses. I mean, more than we could even fathom. And it's hard to figure out what they even are at the time, unless they're pathogenic and we take special precautions against them. And the only way we know they're pathogenic is if they infect somebody. But it's so difficult because they're tiny, tiny things. And to think that there's something smaller, of course, there's always got to be something smaller, right? It's just the technology that's letting us see how small we can get into something. Something smaller exists that's constantly floating around and can cause mutations in your genes, and that's these prions and viroids. The thing I really wanted to question is whether or not these things, these floating fragments of excess code, because the protein will attach onto one of your proteins and get it to form in an incorrect fashion, so that's actually what they believe now is Alzheimer's causing, but I wonder if they could be beneficial. I wonder if they could be why we even have this intellect we do today. Why do we have this massive frontal lobe that allows me to not multitask, but switch on and off between tasks of walking, looking at the iPad, recording, and thinking of things to say in an inefficient way, because truly people can't multitask. I know it's a myth that women try to provoke us into believing, but it's not true. We cannot do multitasking. You know, I wonder if that's because of these tiny fragments. Say the protein, the prion that you got, was not so deadly, or it would morph your proteins, it would switch something around that makes it so that you have some sort of advantage. I really don't know what that would be, but let's say someone lives in a desert and they had their prions affected to adjust their insulin levels. You know, maybe they can process their food, their scarce food source, slower over time than somebody in a jungle area like this would be. Seriously, I'm not even calling Jersey a forest anymore. This is seriously jungle. I mean, if I didn't tell you this was Jersey, you probably would have thought we're walking in the rainforest right now, but it's not. It's like almost 90, thanks to the humidity. There's bugs everywhere. But interestingly enough, unlike the mosquito podcast, if you keep walking, they leave you alone for whatever reason. So that's cool. But going back to the prions, you know, what if this protein piece made you in some way have an advantage? I love fresh rain on leaves. ADD, I know, can't keep focused. And then you went on to reproduce, so that gene, that type of protein you're producing, I wonder if that shifts. I wonder if that transfers to the sex cells. I wonder if the sperm and egg will collect that or if not. It's very possible that it doesn't. I could see it easily not doing that, simply because, well, it's only infecting a certain part of your cell. You know, it's not, these prions are not just going to flow over you like a waterfall out of nowhere. They're just floating around. They're bits and pieces of things. And there's only some circumstances of which... Is my face completely non-seeable? There we go. Got to work with different varying light angles as I move along. But, you know, I don't think they're going to be going to every single cell. If you get hit with a prion, it's not guaranteed that your proteins are going to mess themselves up in the way that this fragment is trying to get them to. You know, so I can't say that it's definitely going to cause that. But that's why I wanted to ask questions today. So a little bummed that the lecture's gone. But happy that I'm here with you guys talking about video games. And sweating my balls off. Because it's a rainforest here. So, video games wise, not really have I played much. I played a little bit of Fallout. But you guys heard me talk enough about Fallout 3. I don't think there's really much I could add. Other than... it's fun to blow shit up, you know? And also that in times where I can't get outside and I need to express my rage, because I don't ignore the primal self that I have, and it's sad that others do. And that's where I think road rage comes from. People getting too pent up and not knowing what to do with the excess energy because they're used to sitting behind office desks and, you know, sitting behind school tables all day. So when are they going to get out? When are they going to express their chimpanzean form? I know this is a very scientific Gaming Gauntlet podcast, but it's what's on my mind. And I do feel a tad guilty for not doing much on the vlog channel. But see, that's bullshit too. I don't really feel guilt. I feel sad that I can't produce that much content that quickly in tangent with what's going on right now in my life. But, you know, it's the same thing of why I'm not even playing a lot of video games right now. I gotta focus on school. Gotta focus on pre-calc, so I'm sorry if this conversation gets a little too over people's knowledge on what's in the world, but, you know, I'm walking you through it. I'm not trying to browbeat you with a bunch of terms that I know, because there's no point to that. I'm not speaking to anyone who really knows that, unless there's a scientist that watches this channel, and that'd be cool, but I don't know if that's the case. Evolutionarily, we come from chimps. Not chimpanzees of today, but a common ancestor that was like a chimp. And an interesting thing you should know is that we share about 85% of our genome, and your genome is pretty much your encoding, kind of like a computer. How you code a Mac, how you code a PC. A genome is essentially that. It's the human coding. And it is as similar genetically, 85% so, as a chimpanzee. Another interesting thing that you really wouldn't even think would be true is that there's only a 15 to 20% difference in our genome when it comes to mushrooms. I know normally I'm wearing my mushroom hat, but it's so friggin' hot out here, and it's not like it's sunny out. That's the only reason I wear a hat, other than I love Mario. Wow, look at that. I hope the iPad camera is good enough to catch that fog. But we're going into the misty jungle. So normally I would wear that, but yeah, mushrooms. Isn't that unbelievable? 15% genetic difference. That's all it is. And if we had a couple of ACGTs switched up over here, we'd be mushrooms. It's phenomenal. It's really cool. Oh, check out this bridge. I love bridges. And Nintendo knows that. That's why in black and white, they put so many amazing, gigantic bridges. So I do this. I play Fallout 3 when I can't release that primal rage, when I'm stuck inside for most of the time. And, you know, it's wet because it actually rained. It's not just that it's that hot out. It does help that it's humid, so it keeps all the moisture around. But it did rain, so I've been stuck inside pretty much all week. And it's annoying. It's really frustrating, too. You know, I hate to go on a little soapbox rant here, but bear with me or fast forward. I don't really care. It drives me absurdly mad that we're paying so much for fruits and vegetables when they're in season now, like apples. I pay $2 at the supermarket for apples, $2 a pound, I guess that would be, and $1.49 at the orchard. The orchard's not close to my house. The only way that I could get there is if I go to school, and then it's along the way. But, you know, it's certainly not community-driven, at least where I live. And I'm driving myself mad with debt here, you know, trying to procure a job. It's bullshit. I'm not doing that. I'm just pretending to do that so people leave me the fuck alone and so I could record my videos out in the woods without any hassle. Because if you play the part, rarely do people understand that you're just playing a part. That's what I'm doing here. I don't believe in this system, but I'll play along for a while. I'll take the advantages I can gain from it, and then I'll leave. It's absurd to me that we have to pay the same amount when there's such surplus. You can see some of the screenshots I got. Not screenshots, wow. You can see some of the actual photos I got. I've been spending too much time on Bandicam of the orchard. And most of those trees are flowing with apples. I mean, they are billowing out with tons and tons of fruit. So much so that the branches break. The tree breaks itself because it's giving us this expression of food in such a extraordinary level. And yet we come around and we say, nope, it's worth this much amount of fake cotton, you know, of cotton that we formed into a fucking dollar to say that we can control you by this. And that's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. It's economic starvation is what it is. I'm lucky that I live in a situation where I could get the money to have apples, and then I could have people who are willing to tote me back and forth from school and stop at the apple place on the way. But what do people who don't have any money really do, or have less than me? And I don't have a ton of money at all. I'm a college student. I'm pretty much broke, other than the full screen checks I get, which go into college because, you know, I'm not even at the college I'm not supposed to be at, but there's another one that I'm headed to. So I'm like trying desperately to save for that and not buy video games, and that's the hardest thing to do, especially during the holidays and Steam sale and all that. Black 2 and White 2 will not be coming to this channel anytime soon. I don't have the time, I don't have the money. But besides all that, what would you do if you didn't have the money to feed yourself well? Well, most likely, since you're living in a gridlock community where you absolutely need a car to get anywhere these days, walking around in trails like these, this is considered an extracurricular activity, not something that you would just do. But it would make more sense to do it if there was farms all around. If there was farms everywhere producing a surplus all the time, it would make a ton of sense. It'd make plenty of sense to have walkable paths from people's homes. But no, the way the system works is that you need a car to get to the market to pick up some processed foods that aren't even a fraction of the percent as good for you as the original food would have been. And even then, it's most likely diabolical for your body because they're pumping it full of corn. And corn has no nutrition in it. It's just roughage. Have you ever eaten corn off the cob and then you poop the next day and then it's like, oh look, there's the corn. Well, that's why. It's just roughage. It has no nutrition in it. And it can be morphed and manipulated into ways and forms of different processed foods we see every day. So people don't even think about it. They're like, oh, corn, whatever. Corn's a vegetable. That cracks me up. There's like a fucking corn lobbyist. This was back in the days when I used to watch TV. It's been 5 years ago since I've seen TV. But they had corn lobbyists come on and say, corn's a vegetable. So what are you freaking out about? Yeah, corn's a vegetable, you asshole. But you're taking advantage of the fact that people don't have the time, the patience, or the money because they're in such a manic state trying to get the money to get the food from this fake store that you've created that they can't realize. Get a look at this. Beautiful. That they can't realize that corn is useless. It's pretty much decoration. Sure, it's yummy corn on the cob, but it really serves no purpose for our own bodies. It's not going to do a whole heck of a lot. Sorry about that. Had to piss, and there was a dude behind me, so I had to wait until he walked away, and then I could go to the bathroom. But as I was saying, it's absurdity. It's absolute absurdity. It makes no sense to me when you look at the nutrition factors, when you look at the economic factors that we came up with. Okay, let's keep in mind here, people, that economies are an idea of monkeys. Okay, the same morphology branch point that formed into chimpanzees formed us. And then we, in an effort to control one another and exploit each other, we came up with this cotton system, this fake fucking system that's not based on anything. Oh, whatever, it's based on gold. Bullshit, it's based on gold. If it was based on gold, the hell is that? Whoa! It's a daddy long legs. Oh, you didn't have to get scared, I'm sorry. And it was carrying away a wasp's carcass. That's crazy. A wasp and a daddy long legs? I never would have thought that would be a battle I'd see. It's not. I saw the remnants and the winnings of the daddy long legs, but still, that would have been a cool battle to see. Is there a daddy long legs Pokemon? I don't think so. Should be. They're apparently the most poisonous, or not poisonous, rather venomous spiders known to man, but they're so tiny that their bite is not going to affect you with their amounts of poison they have. So that's nice. But a super long story, back short to what I was talking about, is the reason I play Fallout is because I get frustrated all the fucking time. I get so pissed off when people take advantage of one another, and it's for no reason. You know, they think it's necessary for them to get by because that's the way this culture tells us is it's necessary. You know, you're not going to make it in life because it's a dog-eat-dog world unless you be the alpha male, you be the alpha bulldog asshole, and you try to take what others have. Or you try to shortchange everybody, and, you know, no one's getting the right service. I tell you, now that Jersey is a jungle, I'm much happier with it, because before it was a place, and I guess it still is, full of assholes who like to rent you out homes that are in disrepair. Oh my fucking god, I can't even tell you how many shitbag landlords I've had in Jersey, just because it's been so frustrating. And it's shit that you would think to yourself, like, water? Oh, of course a home should have water. No, some of the homes I've lived in, they haven't had water for like 6 months at a time, and that was when I was already living there, and the water broke, and then it stayed that way for a long-ass time. So this system where we think it's much more advantageous for us all if we say, fuck the other guy over there, and I want what he has, and if I have it, I'm only going to fake give it back. You know, people who think this is all built up on a gold standard, so there's some kind of honor system or code to that, obviously you haven't just heard in the news. A bunch of gold bars have been found, and this has been happening in England for a couple years now, and I didn't even know about this until like last week. Apparently, there's this metal called tungsten, and it's very similar to weight, and I guess the density of it all. I don't know what they measure when they measure gold to see how valuable it is, because it's bullshit. It's a shiny rock that we found out of the ground. I found a shiny holographic once in a Pokemon card pack. That doesn't mean it's fucking valuable. It's only valuable if you put value on it. Intrinsically, it has no value. You cannot eat gold. You cannot eat a Pokemon card. It's fucking useless. Who cares if it's shiny? That should not be the standard. Oh, I have some shiny shit, so of course I'm the one who wins it all. Fuck you. Who cares if you like shiny shit? I like food, and you stopping me from getting my food because you got an obsession with shiny shit, your gold standard, it's unacceptable. You can't starve me because of that. I'm hungry, and I will make my own food. And I'll say, fuck your system. I don't need it. It's the best way to destroy someone's plan is not even require them in the picture. Not even add them to the equation. Who cares? But going back to the gold tungsten thing, apparently there was some gangster who was hollowing out tons and tons of gold bars and filling them up with tungsten. So your precious gold standard, your shiny shit that you get obsessed over, it's absolutely useless, even in your standards, because it's fake. It's fucking fake. It's full of fake weight that's tungsten wrapped in gold wrapping. You gotta be kidding me, people. You gotta be fucking kidding me. That this is the way the society runs? Fuck that. You can kiss my ass. And this has been really nothing about games. Oh, but let me relate it back. So if I did not express my rage by walking, by exercising, by playing Fallout 3 when I feel like I really need to vent and just drop a bomb, then I would be a basket case, you know? I'd be an absolute basket case. Because I'm too awake at this point. There's too much information out there to just lay down and say, oh, everything's going to be okay. There's just too much fucking information out there to know that that is completely false. You know, to say that that is not true. That's absurd. You know, it's way too much. Way too much. And what is kind of funny about what I do with games and this Gaming Gauntlet podcast and all, you know, in an effort, originally it was to find other people like myself, other gamers. And as far as I'm concerned, that goal has been accomplished big time. I've never had more people to play with in my life. But the secondary goal of me doing all this kind of thing, or doing all these kinds of things, is so that I can spread a message. You know, I don't want you ever to think that I don't have an ulterior agenda. I do. And the thing is, look at this is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The thing is, everybody has an ulterior agenda. And that's what people try to ignore, and that's why I will not be voting 2012 election. I will never vote in the American voting system. It's fucking pointless. It's an insult to my intellect. I know it's pointless. Why the fuck would I do it? I don't care. Obviously, they're not looking at truly what I want to change, which is this. I'd like to see more of this. I'd like to see less shit in Jersey. I'd like Jersey to be known for what it's originally called, the Garden State, instead of the Toxicity Superfund site. Oh, and semantically, isn't it funny how it's called a Superfund when there's so much pollution around that you need to throw tons and tons of money at it, which I heard a politician speaking is not even true. They pretend to throw a lot of money at it, then when the media dies down, they stop funding it, so it's a super unfunded site. But just semantically, it sounds like super fun, not super fun, duh. You know, it's funny. I laugh at that kind of stuff. So I do have my own agenda, and you're probably wondering at this point, well, great, now what is it? I've been fucking listening to this douchebag DeoGenZ for a couple of years maybe, or even just a week or so. I don't want to be indoctrinated with what he's thinking. Okay, well, here's my thing. Here's my ulterior agenda. You're surrounded in it. The plants, that's all I give a fuck about, really. Now, that's not entirely true. I do care for people, but I don't care for people's bullshit. Look at that. Amazing. And there's no bullshit with the plants. They just do what they do. We're here, really, because of the plants. And we've sorely forgotten that. And so it's an interesting paradox for me because I'm making a whole YouTube channel based on gaming, based on this system that encourages people to consume, regardless of whether or not they truly need that device or item or game. Just keep consuming. And you know what? I'm even guilty of it too. I'm guilty of it too because I have so many games on Steam at this point that I don't even know if I'm going to play them all. I mean, I'm definitely going to try them all. I don't think I'm going to get through every single one of them. So it's kind of a paradox for me because, you know, here's this message saying, I would like us all to get back to planting plants again. It's really all it is. But at the same time, what I do, it only exists with this system as it stands. That's why I'm going to school right now. That's why I'm, you know, taking these classes and shit. Because I'm taking the information back those bastards think they can keep it away from us because they put such a high economic barrier on it. Barely anybody can fucking afford college. My cousin was just looking at schools in Long Island, and he found a state school. But you know how much it is for a year? It's $22,000. $22,000 for a community college. The best he could get from there is an associate's degree. And then what job are they going to say that we can be accepted in? You know, fuck that. Look at this. Look at that. Look at the extraordinary complexity of this root system, and how all these trees, for the most part, are sitting in symbiosis, which means they're sitting along each other. They're not bothering one another. And I'm not saying that people have to be that way. Obviously, you know, it looks like it's all peaceful on the surface. But I know from the rainforest, plants battle it out. Plants fight for sunlight. And they will try and cover each other up so that they can get to the sun before the other plant does. But it's not doing it out of any ego. It's not doing it out of any sort of emotion. It's doing it because it needs to survive. And you know, a lot of what we do is not survival anymore. It's us playing a failing game. It's playing a very dangerous game that we can't undo. There's no reset button on this, guys. If we get the planet to a point where it's uninhabitable for us, or it's so toxic to us that the only way we could survive in it is with all these large petrochemical companies shoving more poisons down our throat to keep us barely alive, whether it's a pill or it's a patch or whatever the fuck it's going to be, we're not going to enjoy the game anymore. And really, this is just a game. You're here for a certain amount of time, and whether you believe in do you come back or not, is there really a one-up mushroom out in the world, doesn't matter. You know for real, for now, you in this avatar is playing this game. But how do you play the game? Do you play the game behind an office chair or behind an office desk and shoveling papers through for your boss that you hate anyway? Do you play the game like that? Or do you decide, you know, fuck this. I have class off. I have class canceled for the day. I'm going for a walk in the woods. I'm going to say hi to the ancestors and say, hey, thanks for keeping the atmosphere going, and thanks for giving me food too, you know? People want to pray all the time for bullshit. Well, you've got your gods all around you. You just don't think they're important anymore. And so, to me, this whole, where the two intersect, where the line blurs between the contradictory nature of this channel of telling you, go buy this game, go buy that game, and trying to ensnare you more in this trap of debt and in this trap of consumerism lust. Going back to the information liberation that I'm doing right now, I could give a fuck if I have tons of debt. You know, it doesn't really matter at all. It doesn't matter at all, because I know it's imagination. I know what part of the game is bullshit. It's the one that we came up with. Imagine that. It's the parts that we came up with. It's just like a physics engine, pretty much, is what you have to look at this world like. You know there are certain rules to this game. You know if you fall from a certain height, there's no debate about it, you're going to die. You know, that's just the way gravity, the way the physics engine, fucking mosquitoes, works in this system. However, there's also some shiesty slavers out there who call themselves politicians. But if you've played Fallout 3 and if you've gone to Paradise Springs, you know that it's just entrapment. It's not, oh, come with me and you're going to find yourself a wealth of caps. It's, come with me and we're going to lock you in a thing called a house, and we're going to change your mind so that you think what matters now is not this beauty, it's not adventures, it's not good conversations with your friends, good food, good feeling. No, it's items. You need to buy more. But I encourage you to see the game as it really is. It's got a couple of rules that are steadfast and firm that you should probably pay attention to. But there are a whole lot of other variables in here that don't even matter. So I'm going to play their game. I'm going to play the debt game. And guess what, guys? I'm going to rack it up. I'm going to rack up the tons of debt. Tons of it. Tons. Tons. And when I do, I'm going to go ahead and get my graduate degree right after that. So they can't even send me a bill. They can't even say, hey, DeoGenZ, you know how you've been in college for like X amount of years? Well, we want our money now. And guess what? You have nothing to repossess from me. You can't take my mind back. You can't take the information I have already. And on top of that, you want to throw me in jail? You don't need to. I'll pay my debt, but you're going to pay it. That's right. There's a program in graduate school, and if you're in college now, I highly encourage you check out this scheme, because it's just another glitch, it's just another loophole, another cheat, another hack to beat this game in a better way than we're playing it now. And it's the fact that some schools, I would research this before you go there, will let you do your graduate studies there, and while you're at there, if you're at that institution and you teach, they'll completely cover the cost of your graduate degree. And on top of that, you get a salary. You get a salary of $20,000, and you can get increases, but I don't give a fuck about the wages. I told you that already. The money is meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. Doesn't mean a fucking thing. You can't eat it. You can't build it into a house. It's useless. It's an imagined construct. And only reason it works is because you fucking agreed to do it. And I do too, to a degree. So I fucking agreed to this too. You know, I didn't have much of a choice. I pretty much came into this world, got a social security number, and said, hey, you're in this game now. I hope you blew out all the dust in your cartridge so you can think well, but here it is. If I get a salary, if they're paying me to go to school, and they're paying off that graduate degree, I was not going to plan on being a teacher. I had no care in the world for teaching. I don't care at all. But I realized that I do teaching anyway every time I come onto YouTube. Every time I have something to say, whether it's games or whether it's something real like viroids and prions, I'm teaching. So why not go teach and have that all paid off for me? And they're not going to pay off the undergrad debt that you have, so use the salary that you get directly back into the undergrad. So you have that paid off too. Your undergrad debt will be paid. You won't have any debt for your graduate studies. And during that whole life cycle, you don't need to give a fuck about paying them money. Fuck them, okay? Here's what you do. Get as much money as you need, okay? Don't get too much, because if you do get yourself into a place where you played their game but you didn't play it smart, you know, you might be debt entrapping yourself. Whoa. We gotta check that out. What the hell is going on there? Bunch of water skates. Oh, those are beetles. Huh. Fascinating. But don't fear taking out lots and lots of debt if you need it. You know, and consider this, you need books too, so make sure you get a lot of money for that too. But anything extra that you have, that you don't spend on your books, the funny thing is, they send you a check. Isn't that funny? It's fake money out of nowhere. All you got to do is say, I have a need for money, and then you get money. So use it to your advantage, guys. That's what I'm getting at. Play this game to the fullest. Don't fuck around, okay? Hack it the shit up, because this is a fucked up game, and we need to put it back. We need to reform the rules to a sandbox area that I do not mind exploring. I want to get back to the adventure games like this. I want to get back to those days where I would walk around in the woods for endless hours and not have to worry about, you know, a job or fucking school or having to look after a home and all these other possessions that I decided I needed to hoard for myself. You know, play the game right. Play the game in the way that it will fuck over the overlords the most. It's simple to do. And it seems kind of intimidating. You know, I'm gonna warn you about this. If you don't need college, if you're in a spot where you can make income just fine on your own, and there's not anything that you could think of that college has information on, then don't go. You really don't need the shackles. But I'm telling you, if you're coming into this prison system with me, there are some bobby pins over in the corner there that we could use to unbuckle these shackles to make sure that we can win on the end. And the reason I'm going for an environmental science degree, it's not because I'm a hippie. It's not because I'm a tree hugger. I'm a tree respecter. You know, this right here is why I can breathe today. That and its comrades is why I can breathe today and why I have a food source on this earth. I don't forget that. So I respect the trees. I don't need to fucking hug them. They don't feel me hugging them, and when I do, I might get ants crawling up on me and biting me, so fuck that. But I am an analyst. You know this from my Pokemon series that I do. I am all about strategy, and the strategy I see best here is to steal the information. You know, like I said, they can't take what's out of your head away from you. And if you talk about it all the time like I'm doing here, others are going to learn about it, but for free. So they don't even need to waste the time that you spent in college or the fake money that you played around with. They don't need to waste that if you tell people what you're doing. And the way I see it is, if I learn environmental science, this is the environment. Shopping malls, sewage plants, cities, those are your environment temporarily. But what happens when the electric shuts off? What happens when fuel prices are astronomical to where you can't pay them? Did you know there's a diesel shortage? I didn't know that. I have a diesel truck. Well, I don't have a diesel truck. I don't have a license. But my parents have a diesel truck. And there's a diesel shortage worldwide. That's how crazy the news sources here are and how closed they try to keep the information. They just won't talk about it. And since you're so busy scurrying on, playing the game in the way that the slavers wanted you to play it, you won't take much time to figure it out for yourself. You won't take much time to do the research because you don't have time. You don't have time. You got to keep on playing. You gotta keep on hustling. Gotta keep on getting what you need to get, doing what you need to do. So the only way I would say go to college is if you've got something you really want to learn. But the problem is, don't go into college thinking you're going to come out with a job. That's a myth. That's a fucking myth. And what ends up happening to people so many times is they keep having to go back. They keep having to go back because a graduate degree is not enough. Now they need a master's. Now they need a PhD. Now they need fucking the ends of the earth before they could even get employed. Because it's a fake game. It's just a game. All games are fake. We made them up. But the physics engine is real. And we can decide whatever game we want to play in this sandbox if we get together and say, hey, we don't want to do this one anymore. This Monopoly bullshit is fucked up. And I'm tired of it. So we're going to play the game in the way that we want, because this sandbox is extraordinary. And if people were reunited with what's right outside their door, and they learned not to fear each other or nature, but to actually respect and learn why it's so magnificent, why it's so unbelievable that we're even here right now. I mentioned prions and viroids at the very beginning of this talk, and those, just the base factor that there are these tiny, almost non-microscopic, because they're so small, things called viruses that are not alive either, so they have no intent. They just keep bumping around, and if they've got protein receptors that match your cells, they're coming for you. Or if they bump into you, you're fucked. It's amazing that we're even here. It's amazing. So I think it's a waste. It's a damn shame of human ingenuity to be doing this with it, to be just consuming, to not really be putting forth anything. And ideally, what I'm going to take away from this is how to build sustainable communities. Sustainable communities that will be off the grid. Once again, I'm going to play the game, but I'm going to play it the way I want to play it. I'm going to hack it and make it my own game. Because if I get myself a sustainable community, I don't need to worry about my food costs. I don't need to worry about my electricity. And in fact, what can pay off my land taxes, because there's still that bullshit to deal with. And I don't want to go to jail. I know the repercussions for not doing it the way the slavers want me to, so I'll act as though I'm doing it. This way, they leave me the fuck alone. I'll pay the taxes, but you're really going to pay it, government. You're going to pay me once I'm giving you power to your failing system. So, there are ways. There are ways to play this game that make it a much more satisfying simulation. And it's weird because maybe one day, not so long from now, I might not even show up on camera anymore. I might not play games anymore. Just because I'm too occupied with trying to move into the next sandbox simulation, because I've had it up to here with it, this one. Then maybe I won't be doing this podcast anymore, and that'll be interesting. But I leave it to you guys, I leave it to the viewers. I'll leave it to other content creators. There's tons of them out there. If I leave the gaming sphere, nobody will know. Maybe like 5 people will know. But the important thing that you could take away from this, and you know every time you watch my videos, yes, I have an agenda. And yeah, it's not a human-based one. But it involves everything on this earth. Because if my agenda is purely the plants, well, then you can be assured we're going to have good oxygen. We're going to have a good amount of food. And once I learn what plants are what and what in my environment I can just take off a tree or a shrub and start eating, I'm going to tell you guys that too. So I don't think this channel will ever change in the way that it's going to be constantly gaming, because sadly, as I mentioned before, people don't really have the time or the care or the energy left, because they're being raised with these low nutrition foods, because they're put on the wheel every day to just barely survive with a very low income, expected to thrive in a constantly uplifting cost era. You know, they don't have the time to care about what I'm talking about right now. And I understand that. I completely understand that. So it's why I integrate everything into gaming. That's why I get yelled at sometimes in the comments. I don't really care. I really don't. It's just another simulation. It's just another form. I donned on this avatar, DeoGenZ, so people would not get tripped up over the name that I have, because it's bullshit anyway. I didn't come up with that name. Parents did. So why can't I come up with my own name, you know? But I don't think that it's going to really make a difference unless you get your message intertwined into what people are watching already, which at this current time it's games. You know, I'm not playing to any audience though. I can assure you that all the stories I've told you throughout the years in my LPs have been true. And I'm a hardcore gamer. But I'm a hardcore gamer who realizes that, you know, this thing I love, electricity, it's great, but the way that everybody's getting it is very caustic. And we don't have to do it this way. We simply do not have to do it this way. There are other resources. Scarcity, it exists only in short leaps and bounds. The only scarcity you truly have is your mind. If you can't make anything up with your mind, if you can't think of how to manipulate your environment in a way that you can thrive, then the only scarcity was really in your mind. Unless, of course, you're in a dry desert and there's really nothing around for you to have, then you're screwed, and the environment was a bit scarce in food. But the idea that we can't have a society unless there's scarcity built in is bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Those apple trees you saw earlier, they were booming with fruit. And that was a whole farm. Over the summer, I went over to my grandfather's house in Long Island, and we rose a garden up on a postage stamp of land. It produced food for the entire block that he lived on, and sent some through the mail to us. Boxfuls, entire big-ass boxfuls of garden that is so small. You would think, how could this small area feed so many people? That's the way plants work. Because the reason we're here, if you look at it evolutionarily, and you look at what organisms were here first, it most likely was mushrooms and plants. Fungi, because they don't need to photosynthesize, and they can break down minerals, which in turn, that's why you often see a mycorrhizal relationship with trees and mushrooms. You couldn't have trees without mushrooms, because what mushrooms do is they break down the minerals in rocks and in the soil, and they make it into usable nitrates for the trees and for the other plants. So after the trees are here, you know, that's great. How do they get around the rest of the world? Why is there plant life every single nook and cranny that this earth has, it seems to be? Well, they had to invent monkeys. They had to invent different organisms. They had to invent things that would eat their bodies and slip in seeds to their digestive tract. This way, when that animal, that organism, goes off and wanders on because plants are planted in the ground, it will spread its influence. It's funny, but if you think about it, plants are sort of like tertiary invaders. Before Earth was populated, it was just a rock floating in space. Until it was pelted with the right rock, the right combination of comets and asteroids, some of which had spores, some of which had seed pods on them, and some of which had water, which is all necessary combinations for life. You know, it all blossomed into this. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So to me, I'm just doing the plants' work. I'm only here because of the plants, and especially me, being a vegetarian, I'm a plant-made person. So to think that I'm here to do anything else but make more plants is just silly ego shit. It's just silly culture coming into my brain and tainting what I think, because I have a lot less anger. I have a lot less stress when I'm out walking and surrounded by nature. And maybe you might not be like that because you're one of these poor saps who've already been convinced that a little bit of discomfort in the form of sweat and stench in from your armpits is a negative thing. But for me, it just makes me feel alive. But besides the point, ranting over, now let's talk about adventure games. Why is it that I'm so eager to get back to the forests that I once explored when I was a child? Well, probably has to do with the fact that I'm expected to do all this other bullshit, but besides the point, it's adventure games. Adventure games are fun because they allow us to do what we were doing before we got to video games, which was explore. The only way that we found all this great land to propagate and to make our own and develop these new technologies for games was by exploring, was by going out there, having an adventure, not knowing what the situation was going to bring, not knowing whether you would even make it back alive. That was exciting. Adventure games are awesome. And I think you could tell by the first half of this podcast why they're awesome. What have we been doing all this time before there was such video games? We were going on adventures. We were exploring our world. We were questioning, what the heck are we in right now? So with adventure games, it takes it to another level. It takes it to any fictional land that we want to go towards. One of my favorite adventure games, adventure/first-person shooter games that's ever been invented is the Metroid Prime series. That was one of the best, in my opinion, adventure series because there was not really any dialogue. I mean, there was lots of Chozo lore to scan, and I loved that because it's like going into an area where there was civilization and now there's not, so you have to look at the remnants of it to figure stuff out. And that's really where it comes in, figuring stuff out. You keep exploring your world so you can understand a little bit more about it. You can understand, why is it that those flowers grow yellow and white by this tree? Is it only this tree? I don't know. We may not even ask as complex questions as that. We may be simply searching, these fucking bugs, man, for more treasure. We may be searching for more food. And whether you're adventuring in Minecraft or you're fighting your way through the Chozo lores and all the bosses in Metroid Prime, the unifying factor is adventuring, not knowing what's coming around the corner. That's why I believe that Minecraft has had such a explosion of popularity in such a short amount of time, is even though it seems like the simplest game around, it's what we've been doing for centuries and centuries. It's almost kind of ingrained in our DNA at this point that it's good to do hard work, even if it's not hard work per se, as lifting pieces of wood and forming them into planks, but doing hard work in an investment of time in some kind of experience that isn't even real, that's satisfying. It lets us know that, oh, if we mine for these resources, it's actually a lot better than going into create mode and simply building what's on our head. We get a lot more ideas, too, from adventure games that have us search back and forth. That was something that Metroid Prime did that I heard mixed reviews on. The backtracking element of it all. I personally like it because it has you go over an area where you thought, well, I've explored everything in this area. It seems pretty locked up from here. I think the developers are trying to tell me to move on. And then you end up going back to that area, and then you see, wow, those clever developers. I didn't even notice that ledge up there that I could get those space jump boots with. And it's really fun to see. It's really cool to know that what you found is maybe not all. which is why we go on multiple expeditions back to experiences we've had time and time again. I mean, why does the Pokemon game keep coming back if it's the same game? Well, it's the same game, essentially. The core of it, the story of it, you've got yourself, you're going on a journey, you've got the evil team, you got the Elite Four, and that's Pokemon. Of course, there's always the trading and battling elements of it all, but that's not the adventure. The adventure, the reason we come back to it, is because we haven't seen this area before. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what trainers are around the corner, what new Pokemon might be out in these new lands to find. And that's exciting. Nuance, novelty, it all makes us strive forward faster towards better adventures. If we can keep having these great new experiences, then we are going to love a game. In Minecraft, case in point, that is an experience that is essentially never over, unless you say it's over. It takes so long to even map out just a small block space and understand what's in that space, because while it looks like it's simple on the surface, just grass laying over it, if you dig underneath, there's a whole world of creepers and spiders. And speaking about creepers, creeping ants that I almost just walked into, that wouldn't have been nice. Would have been seeing me do an ant dance, but that actually would have been funny, so maybe I should run into it anyway and edit it in. I won't, though. So underneath all that dirt, there's even more layers of world underneath, and that's crazy. That's what's so cool about video game adventures, is that you can do things you never could do before, or even simple tasks like a shovel. You could theoretically dig and dig and dig until your shovel breaks in the real world. But what are you going to find, really? What are you going to find? It's not like there's a cavernous earth below us, at least we don't think it is. It could be in certain pockets, but compared to Minecraft and all the shafts and empty spaces they leave you to explore, it's nothing. Plus, there's no monsters underground, really, so it's not as fun. But just these little wacky touches of, I couldn't do that before, or, wow, I never could dig in the ground that fast before. It makes it a new experience. It makes it something that we really want to come back to. And maybe even go on adventures together. It's kind of a new phenomenon, but as people are getting better internet connections, there are more games coming out that are co-op centric, that are adventure and explore together games. Minecraft does this with servers. And it shows that everybody wants to go on a good adventure, everybody wants to find some nuance. But it's not entirely possible all the time due to the system that we live in, because we're locked indoors, we're told we've got a schedule, we got a regimen, you're not going to get your food check anymore if you don't show up here at a certain time. So it causes us to go a little mad inside, I believe. And this is why you see people yelling at one another in traffic when it doesn't really do anything at all. It just makes you more mad. It's because we're frustrated inside knowing that, you know, look at this cool adventure. Look at this awesome adventure that we've had. And you're not even with me right now. You're just being with me vicariously through a camera. And I can't even hear what you're saying unless you comment. So be sure to do that. But even this fun new adventure where you don't know what's happening, you don't know where we're going to take a turn, you don't know what we're going to run into, I bet it's a lot more exciting than just seeing me sitting in one area blankly with, you know, nothing behind me. Bugs. No bugs interrupting the camera. You know, what would a podcast be without mosquitoes? It's called a podcast in the winter. I can't wait. But the thing is, we need to get back out and explore. We need to realize that adventure games are satisfying only because we've been exploring for ages. And we really need to get back to that. We really need to get back on the wagon of exploration because, you know, maybe it looks all nondescript to you. Maybe you're not a tree person. Maybe you're not an outdoorsy person. But I bet if you went on some adventures where you didn't know what was going to happen and you had no stressors of time or worrying for when you're expected to be home or anything like that, and you just went out and just had fun with people that you knew and loved, I bet you would find yourself to be more of an outdoorsy person than you think. So that is why adventure games are so awesome to me. I want to know why you think they're awesome, though. Oh, wow. Really getting into the marshlands now. Marshy grass. Maybe there's some wild Pokemon down there. Do I see mudkips? I want to know what you find so fascinating about adventure games, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're one of these people who likes puzzles and thinks that adventure games are too annoying and all the searching that you have to do. Is your favorite game something like Zelda, where you go for direct achievements in the form of items and boss battles? I'd like to know below. Now it's time for Viewer Mail. This week's Viewer Mail question is, which Sonic game do you think is the best in the series? I asked people this over YouTube personal message because after playing Sonic Generations and really being enthralled with the graphics and how fun and fast Sonic can really be, I had believed partially a lot of the hype that Sonic was, sort of dead, but turns out it's a really fun game. So I asked people over YouTube, what do you think is the best in the series? Silver Death Scythe thinks, the best Sonic game I've played was Shadow the Hedgehog. Not many like it though, so your next best choice is either Sonic Colors or Sonic Adventure Battle 2. Usma374 said, I know about Sonic when I was 5 years old, and today it's still a great game. And that's all the useful viewer mail today that we got. So it's not for a lack of trying, it's not for a lack of PMs that I've sent out to people, but when you randomly send out PMs to people who play video games, sometimes it's a shot in the dark. Either they'll answer you, or they'll tell you off, or they just will never respond. So for any of those reasons above, I got a very limited amount of responses, so I'd like to know what you guys think. Once more, on top of the adventure game, maybe make another comment and let me know simply what is your favorite Sonic game. Because, Shadow the Hedgehog 2 I played. I don't think it's the best in the series though. Definitely Sonic Colors. And it was an interesting game. It was interesting at the time, and it'd be really fun to go back and play it to see how it holds up, because I still have it for the GameCube. So, I don't know, maybe I will give that a try, but let me know what you think. Alright guys, I'm DeoGenZ. Remember, every Saturday on Planet Poke I do Pokemon of the Week, so check that out. And Vladimir is doing Minecraft once more. Episode 100 just aired, and that's pretty awesome because I was on that show as well. So it's dual commentary with me and Vlad, and it's a blast. Opinions. Do 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 do.